Y'all ever heard about a place where the walls seem to breathe? The air's thick with whispers and shadows got a mind of their own? Well, up on a hill in Louisville, there's an old, crumbling building where history and haunting go hand in hand. Folks call it Waverly Hills Sanatorium, a place where thousands came seeking a cure, but many never left. If you're brave enough to walk them halls, you might just meet one of them. Stay tuned, 'cause this story's about to send a chill straight down your spine. Now, if you're into hearing stories about places like this, where history and haunting go hand in hand, well, y'all are in the right place. This here's Kentucky Melody, and we dig deep into the spooky, strange, and downright fascinating tales Kentucky's got to offer. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss no stories from the hollers, the hills, and beyond. Now, let's take a walk through the shadows of Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Now, folks, let me spin y'all a yarn about a place where the air's thick with stories, and the shadows hold on to things long gone. Up on a hill in Louisville, Kentucky, stands an old building, Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Some folks say it's just bricks and mortar, but to anyone who's ever set foot inside, it's clear that this place is something more. The line between the living and the dead is mighty thin up there, like a fog that never lifts. And behind that veil, well, there's souls that still wander, lingering in the halls where they once drew their last breath. Believe it or not, Waverly Hills didn't start off as a place of sickness and death. Nah, sir. Back in the late 1800s, this here hill was peaceful, a far cry from the eerie feeling folks get now. It all began when a fella named Major Thomas H. Hayes bought the land and needed a place to educate his daughters. So he set up a one-room schoolhouse right there on the ridge, and he named it Waverly, after his favorite set of novels by Sir Walter Scott. The name stuck, and from that little schoolhouse, the hill took its name, becoming known as Waverly Hills. For a while, it was quiet up there, just the sound of kids playing and learning. But that peace didn't last long. By the early 1900s, something far darker was creeping across the land, the White Plague, as folks called it. Tuberculosis was spreading fast, and it was leaving a trail of death in its wake. As tuberculosis took hold, Louisville found itself in the thick of the epidemic. The city was one of the hardest hit, and they needed a place to isolate and treat the sick. So, in 1910, up on that same hill where kids once learned their ABCs, they built Waverly Hills Sanatorium. It started out small, just a couple of wooden buildings, meant to care for early-stage TB patients. Folks thought the high ground and fresh air might help cure the disease. But the plague only got worse, and more people were falling ill. Before long, the little wooden building wasn't near enough, so in the 1920s they built a new Waverly Hills, a massive 5-story brick hospital that could hold hundreds of patients at a time. It was one of the biggest TB hospitals in the country, a place where hope and desperation walked side by side. Now, life at Waverly Hills wasn't easy. It was isolated up on that hill, away from the world because no one wanted to be near the TB patients. They tried to help them, mind you. Doctors experimented with all kinds of treatments. Fresh air, sunlight therapy, collapsing patients' lungs to rest them, and even removing ribs to help folks breathe. The patients were laid out on the porches in all seasons, hoping that Kentucky's fresh air might be the miracle cure they needed. But, truth be told, most folks who went in never came back out. See, There were so many deaths that the doctors had to come up with a way to handle all them bodies. They didn't want the living patients to see death carted out day after day. It'd break their spirit. So they built something called the Death Tunnel. It was an underground tunnel that stretched from the hospital down to the bottom of the hill. Bodies were loaded onto gurneys and wheeled down that dark, sloping path out of sight of the others. That tunnel carried thousands of souls from this world to the next. By the 1940s, the miracle they'd been praying for finally came. Streptomycin, a new drug, was found to treat TB, and the death grip that the White Plague had on the country started to loosen. Fewer people were dying, and the need for places like Waverly Hills began to fade. By 1962, Waverly closed its doors as a tuberculosis sanatorium, having served its grim purpose for over 50 years. But that wasn't the end for Waverly. Not by a long shot. The building was converted into something called Woodhaven Medical Services, a geriatric hospital. They took in elderly patients, folks with dementia, mental illnesses, and the ones too sick to care for themselves. But it wasn't long before whispers started about neglect and mistreatment. In 1981, the state shut the place down, leaving Waverly Hills to fall into decay. And with each year of abandonment, its reputation as one of the most haunted places in America only grew. Now, here's where things get downright strange. After the hospital closed, there were all kinds of plans for Waverly Hills. At one point, somebody tried to turn it into a church. Can you imagine having Sunday service in a place where so many souls had passed? That idea didn't stick. Then, in the 1990s, a developer had the bright idea to turn Waverly into luxury apartments. That's right. Somebody thought folks would pay good money to live in a place that had been a tuberculosis hospital, a death tunnel and all. But, predictably, that never happened either. Waverly Hills stayed empty, the echoes of those souls wandering through its long, dark corridors. But then, something happened that breathed new life into the old place. In the early 2000s, a couple by the name of Charlie and Tina Mattinglys took over the property. Now, instead of letting Waverly crumble away into nothing or trying to sweep its haunting past under the rug, the Mattinglys leaned right into what the place had become, a home for spirits, a piece of history, and a beacon for paranormal enthusiasts from all over the world. The Mattinglys had a vision, and it wasn't to tear down or hide what Waverly Hills had been. They started restoring the building, brick by brick, saving as much as they could while still preserving the eerie atmosphere that made the place famous. They opened the doors to the public, offering tours of the hospital, daytime tours for those wanting to learn the history of the place, and nighttime ghost tours for the brave souls looking to come face to face with the spirits still lingering inside. See, Waverly Hills has become a magnet for ghost hunters. Folks with cameras and recorders hoping to catch a whisper or a shadow out of the corner of their eye. People come from all over the world, drawn by the stories of strange noises, figures moving in the dark, and the infamous creeper, a shadowy figure that crawls along the walls. And whether you're a skeptic or a believer, there's no denying that Waverly's got an atmosphere like no other. Now, let's talk about the ghostly legends that swirl around this old sanatorium like leaves in a windstorm. You see, ever since the Mattinglys opened those doors to the curious public, stories of hauntings have exploded, and you can bet they're enough to send shivers down your spine. One of the most famous spirits is that of a little girl named Mary. Folks say she roams the halls, playing with a ball and giggling like she's not a care in the world. But there's something hauntingly tragic about her laughter, Legend has it that she died from tuberculosis long ago, and now she wanders those halls searching for her lost friends. Visitors often claim to see a little girl in a white dress, and if you listen closely, you might just hear her whispering for someone to come play. Then there's the tale of the creeper, an unsettling presence that has been reported by countless visitors. They say it moves along the walls, a dark, shadowy figure that seems to crawl just out of sight. Some swear they've felt it watching them, a chill running down their spine as they catch just a glimpse of it in the corner of their eye. The creeper is known for its sinister energy, and those who've encountered it often leave with a sense of dread they can't shake. And let's not forget about the sound of footsteps echoing through the empty halls. Many folks have reported hearing footsteps behind them, only to turn around and find no one there. It's as if the very walls are alive with the whispers of the past, a reminder of all the souls that pass through those doors. Sometimes visitors find themselves hearing cries or moans in the night, ghostly echoes of the patients who once resided there, trapped between worlds. Some even claim to have captured evidence of the supernatural with their cameras, pictures of orbs floating through the air, strange shadows, and unexplained streaks of light. For the brave and curious, Waverly Hills has become a hotbed for ghost hunting, with groups setting up overnight investigations in hopes of encountering something otherworldly. So, whether it's the playful spirit of Mary or the unsettling presence of the creeper, Waverly Hills is a place where the past and present collide. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind that sweeps through the halls seems to carry a story, one that invites you to listen closely and embrace the mysteries that lie within its haunted walls. But the Mattinglys ain't just making a spectacle of the spooky. They're also working hard to restore Waverly to its former glory. Every year, they host a haunted house event called Haunted Waverly Hills in October. It's spooky fun for visitors, but it's also a fundraiser to help with the repairs and restorations that old building sorely needs. All them proceeds go into saving Waverly, keeping it from falling apart, and giving folks the chance to see it in all its eerie, historical glory. There's been plenty of talk about what the future holds for Waverly Hills. Some folks say it might be turned into a full-fledged museum one day, showcasing its history as one of the most notorious TB hospitals in the country. Others think it could become a hotel, a place where you could spend the night surrounded by the spirits of the past, if you've got the nerve for it, that is. For now, though, Waverly Hills stands as a monument to both Kentucky's past and its ghostly legends. The Mattinglys are doing their best to keep the doors open and the history alive, whether folks come for the haunting, the history, or both. So, whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's no denying that Waverly Hills holds something special, something that draws people in. It's a place where time feels like it stood still, where the echoes of the past still whisper through the halls, and where you can almost feel the weight of the history hanging in the air. Now, if this kind of story is what keeps y'all on the edge of your seat, you're in the right place. Here at Kentucky Melody, we're all about exploring the strange, the spooky, and the beautiful stories from across the bluegrass state. Hit that subscribe button and join us for more tales like this one. You don't want to miss what's coming next. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be telling a story about a place near you.